I always say this, my biggest gift is the fact that I'm not gifted at anything. Nothing's come to me easy. So you either got a growth mindset, you got a fixed mindset. You're either a consumer or you're a provider or you're a creator. The first time that I really experienced meritocracy in my life, it doesn't matter what I look like. I didn't go to fancy private school. I don't have lawyer, barrister parents. It was just what I was able to deliver. I'm a strong believer that whatever God throws at us, he's thrown at us because we can handle it. You know, when you're so obsessed and dedicated about trying to bring something about because you truly believe in it, you believe you're unstoppable.
This episode is brought to you by Nail It and Scale It, the world's leading fast growth program for businesses. If you have ever wanted to grow your business faster than what you can right now, if you need to make more revenue, if you need more leads, if you need more clients, if you need to know how to plan your business in a strategic way in order to hit big goals, if you need to learn how to scale your business and grow your team and your business so that you have more freedom, then this program is for you. Imagine 3 days immersed with me where we cover all aspects of business, but we do it from an immersive but also an execution standpoint. We execute every step of the way, and we're looking at 5 key areas. We're looking at your psychology, we're looking at your marketing, your sales, your leadership, and we're looking at your planning and how we integrate these 5 key areas to grow your business and your brand quickly. So if you'd like to find out more information, kerwinray.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to Unstoppable today, the man behind Oxyshred. He is carved like a Greek god, Izhar Basha. Mate, great to have you on here.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Kerwin.
Mate, it's I got to say, it's now a bit of an honor. I think I feel leaner, to be honest, just talking to you. You've got that. It just in your presence, fat seems to just melt away from me, mate. As I was saying to you just before we jumped on here, I knew about Oxyshred before I knew about you, and then finding out about EHP Holdings and everything behind it, mate. I'm actually quite amazed. You have built a significant empire, 9-figure plus empire. Over the last, when did you start this? When was it?
So the idea was conceived in 2012, and we first got product.
2012.
Yeah, and we kicked off in
until now. Dude, that's epic. Like, this is one of those stories that you don't often get to talk to people about. So, mate, I know you've got an incredible story, and it didn't necessarily start where most people would think, but where did this all begin? Actually, before we go there, there's always this question I like to ask people. Mate, you've done a lot of things in a whole range of different areas apart from growing your empire. When you're at dinner and nobody knows who you are, if you're going to a dinner party and you sit down and someone says, "Okay, mate, so what do you do?" How do you answer that question?
Man, it's a funny one. I normally go in and say I'm the former lawyer who saw light at the end of the tunnel and managed to escape. But I normally get in there and just say we're involved. It just gets so complex when you say supplements. I normally start off with we're in the social media marketing industry, and we help people become better, and then that starts a big rabbit hole discussion, and we get into health and fitness supplements and helping people to lose weight, become more confident, live better, more meaningful lives, and reach their full potential in what they do, man. So yeah, that normally starts a conversation, and it gets deeper from there and goes pretty deep. I'm a pretty philosophical person. So
oh, you are? Oh, then this is going to be a great conversation then. So mate, you, as I said, you have achieved an incredible height of success with what you've created with EHPlabs. Where does this go back? Like, where does your story begin? Where does this start?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, good question. Look, my family is originally from Fiji. You've obviously asked how to pronounce the name and didn't want to butcher it, which I respect big time. My family's from Fiji, so at the age of 5, my family escaped political and racial persecution in Fiji to flee to Australia. I have Indo-Fijian heritage. So my dad's great-grandparents are sugarcane farming slaves taken from the South India to Fiji to work the sugarcane fields. And so I come from pretty humble beginnings, and I've seen the sacrifice that my parents have made for me and my sister to give us a better life. And Australia was always this, it was like, Alice in Wonderland kind of thing, just this, I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid with no front teeth. Coming to Australia, I lost my front teeth when I was 3 years old in an accident. So I had this my mum would call me the open window, and I'd smile because it had this big gas here.
So you still remember landing in Australia? You still remember that day?
Mate, big time. My parents still tease me to this day, and they say, you know, you're so excited to jump on that big airplane. You'd say, I want to go on the Qantas, you know, because the list on the Qantas airplane. But
Yeah, right.
for me, when I landed in this country, and obviously, the way I look, I mean, that was never an issue for me. You know, I've always been the person who wants to fit into wherever I am. And coming to Australia, I just wanted to be so Australian. And all I did was my mum cooked some beautiful Fijian curries and stuff, and I just absolutely vetoed that. And I just pretty much had the Vegemite on toast diet and Tim Tams. That's all I was about. I mean, thank God
Bacon and
my
eggs.
nutrition has cleaned up
Yeah.
since then. But long story short, my sister.
And so where did you land in Australia? Where did you move to? Have you been in New South Wales and Sydney the whole time?
Yeah, good question. We first moved into a 2-bedroom unit with my auntie and uncle who were in Australia before my parents got here, and so it's two families. There would have been 12 people in a 2-bedroom unit in Summer Hill. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and my parents struggled to get jobs. My dad was, you know, a brown-skinned, you know, 6'2" Muslim male with an accent, and mum was a vivacious, charismatic, beautiful woman who'd never worked, because that's just how it was in Fiji. You know, she raised a
Yeah, of
family,
course.
and dad was doing pretty well in Fiji, and came here and pressed the reset button. I saw my parents, you know, sacrifice and be humble and take whatever gifts this beautiful country had to give my family. Dad worked as a prison officer at night and the housing
Yeah,
department
right.
in the daytime, building houses for the indigenous communities in housing welfare.
Yeah, wow.
And mum would nurse all night, do nursing all night, and then stand up as a bank teller all day long. So parents worked 2 jobs each. Didn't see them until I was about
Oh,
16 years old.
shit. Yeah, wow. And I can only imagine that two things would have happened. Number one, you would have been given an incredible demonstration of work ethic. But the second thing that I can only assume that would have happened if you would have had to develop, you know, an enormous amount of independence quite early.
Yeah, Kerwin. So work ethic is key. For me, the biggest thing was sacrifice. And
Yeah,
seeing what
right.
my parents had to sacrifice, what they gave up for me and my sister to come to this amazing country, yeah, I could never pay that back, man. So all of the things that came later on in my life, and I'm sure we'll explore them later on in this discussion. I hope it sheds some light on maybe my early years and what I've been through. And look, this is nothing. I mean, it's nothing out of the ordinary, man. It's probably just a typical immigrant story, and a lot of people go through this, and people have much more hardships than me and things, but for me, it truly resonated. And I think it's really important to talk about that because
Yeah.
the past helps to shape who we are today.
So much so, because again, a lot of people who would only know you from your success would know you as the guy that's built the, you know, the 9-figure empire that is EHP. But what have been some of those hardships that you experienced, you know, in those early days in Australia when you came over?
Look, it's I was really privileged, man. I'm not gonna say I had any massive hardships. I was quite protected. I was
Yep.
the younger of the two siblings. My sister was 9 and I was 5. She'd cook for me. She'd make sure I was fed. You know, I had a pretty happy upbringing. I got to watch Humphrey B. Bear cartoons, and you know, I was a very happy-go-lucky kid. Like we're very resilient. You know, when you come from an
Yeah.
immigrant background and you're not as super sensitive as sometimes people who are born into privilege. And I wouldn't say I had
Yeah.
any massive issues other than maybe some things, you know, obviously as most kids, you know, they look different, and it's massive in America now. And you know, my company is based in America too. We've got pretty much 60% of the company's revenue comes out of the States. Black Lives Matter, and you know, the whole awareness of racism and prejudice and discrimination. They're things I went through, man. I wouldn't say I was too hung up about them. Um, but yeah, just
But you've had the experience. You had the experience, and it seems like you're a little bit Teflon. Like it's like it just didn't stick. It just slid on by.
yeah, man. I think we learn from them. You understand, you empathize. I mean, it was at a particular time. It's nothing that's held me back ever. Things made me who I am today. You know, it's really developed that resilience.
Yeah, right. And so at what point did you start getting interested in business? Like, had business always been on your radar, or was it something that came along as you started to grow? Because I've heard the story. It sounded like you did quite well at school. Is that right?
So the business stuff, to just address that first. My
Yeah, of course.
I watched I watched my parents work really, really hard to give us every single thing. And my grandparents, who obviously were active in helping to raise me and my sister, because my parents were working all the time,
Yeah.
would be 6 months, in between Sydney with us and the other 6 months in the UK with my uncle, my mum's older brother. And he left Fiji when he was 22 years old. He was a bit of a street thug gangster, and he used to always give credit back to my grandfather. If he didn't ship him out of Fiji, he'd probably be in jail. And he went over to the UK and, man, worked his way up from flipping burgers on the grill to being one of the biggest franchise owners of KFC, Wimpy, and Taco Bell. And he's a pretty big guy over there, and done very well for himself, all from zero. And
Yeah.
I would
Wow.
always look at how my grandparents spoke about him, and how he would
Yeah.
provide,
Right.
and how he'd help and give back to the less fortunate, poorer relatives in Fiji who didn't have water. He'd be building wells for the communities. He'd be building houses and helping. I said, I don't necessarily want to be that guy, but I want to be
Yeah.
the
Right.
type of person that instills these values in people and is able to help. I had that from an early age, man. And I was always the bigger kid, so maybe from the early days, imagine this lanky kid. I was in kindergarten the size of year 2 kids, so I'd walk in, and all my mates would be the little skinnier runty kids, who'd get bullied. And I think from early on, it was always about just protecting and helping the less fortunate, the slightly weaker people in
Yeah.
society, and uplifting them and seeing them achieve greatness. So that was instilled in me from early age, man. And then how that transcended to school. Look, I wasn't a straight A student by all means. I always say this, my biggest gift is the fact that I'm not gifted at anything. Nothing's come to me easy.
But did you go on to study law? Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, I did, man. So I did. Yeah. So I went through school, and I think my turning point
Yeah.
was about year 9. Before year
Okay.
9, I wanted to be an NBA basketball player. So I was playing
Okay.
semi-professional ball for Parramatta Wildcats.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's interesting. Let's go down that for a second, down that rabbit hole. So, when did basketball come into the equation?
yeah, year 7, I remember I went from Auburn West Primary School, just when basketball started to gain some massive prevalence. And Shaq, I wanted to be Shaquille O'Neal. I didn't reach 7'2". I think I'm stuck at 6'4". But but yeah, I was 6 foot. I was 6 foot by the time I was in year 7, and I met
Yeah.
I
Wow.
met a gentleman at school, a kid at school named James Ednalino, who saw me as being this big tall kid, and he was playing basketball from pretty much the age of 3 years old. His dad chucked a basketball in his hand, and he's like, dude, like, look, you got this height. Like, I'm gonna play ball with you every afternoon. And I had no clue. I was pretty uncoordinated, as I said to you. I'm not gifted at anything, man. And just worked hard at it. And eventually, like, by the time we were mid year 7, end of year 7, I was dunking. So vertical rings, 10-foot ring, and I was dunking. I started to develop athletic
Yeah.
prowess through
Wow.
hard work. So
Wow.
that's a basketball story, man.
And so, what level did you go to in basketball?
So
Semi-pro, like.
Yeah, so played for Parramatta Wildcats. The Florida squad came out to select whatever the top 20 kids from the New South Wales region. I got selected, showing off. There must have been some girls sitting in the audience or something. There was somebody I was trying to impress. I went up and dunked, hung off the ring, fell off, and I fractured my wrist. So I had to get.
No.
So I still got the scars to today. Yeah, man, got stars and fractured my
Yeah.
wrist.
Right.
My old man sat me down and said, now imagine if you had a family, you had to provide, and this happened, your career's over and you're nothing because you haven't got your education. Fast forward 3 months, my dad had a massive heart attack and died for 10 minutes and then was brought back. Well, my mum drove my dad to hospital, dead in the car, and they brought him back at Auburn Hospital. And that was probably my turning point, man. That's when shit really settled.
That was year 9, was it?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. Yeah. That's when I became a man at 15. I became a man at 15, and
So, what happened to Dad? Was there an impact from that episode that was long lasting?
yeah, so he says 30% of his heart is scar tissue. They'll never recover, and they discovered he had a congenital issue with a leaky valve. So while they had him open,
Right.
they then swapped in a mechanical valve into his heart. But man, he's good now. Dad's 17. Dad's good, you know.
Rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So then you threw yourself into law. How do you go from basketball to law? You seem to have that's curious.
So it's funny, man. It's actually in year 9s when I first decided I need to start to provide for the family. I mean, before that, I was always into doing stuff to get money because my parents were working 2 jobs each. So I remember mowing lawns. My dad said I wasn't allowed to take money off anyone from cutting their grass because they're all neighbors and neighbors like family, and you don't take money off them. So if I'm cutting my dad's lawn, I got to cut their lawn for free. And
I love your dad.
It's all about
Man,
social
you gotta mow like fucking 6 lawns before you can start making it profitable.
Dad's a public service kind of guy, man. Like he's got the biggest heart in the world. You know, he's got the biggest heart in the world. So a lot of that's rubbed off onto me over the years. And I remember there's this lady lived across the road. Her name was Irene. And I went over and she would have been like 90. She couldn't say Izhar. She called me Caesar. She'd be like, Caesar. You know, and so I went over, mowed her lawn, finished up, couldn't take money off an old lady. And, you know, dad would be very angry if I did so. But I noticed she had these little plums in the front yard and this tree that were falling off and littering her front yard. So I said, Irene, man, do you want me to get rid of this? And she's like, oh, that'd be great. So I went and got mum's laundry basket, filled them up with the plums, went and washed them in the bathtub, bagged them up in these little bags and went to school and sold them for $5 a bag. And I was slinging 10 bags a day in like whatever year, you know, year 7, year 8, making $50 a day. It's pretty big money for a 12-year-old. That's how I bought my basketball shoes, Kerwin, man. That's how I could afford to buy the basketball shoes.
Dude, wow, that's better than my story. I sold horse shit door to door. That's awesome.
Shit for people. I love that story.
Man, we literally sold so much shit, we ran out of shit. And then we converted to chocolates. And then I was like 12, 13, like your age, and we fucking ate all the profits. So, okay, so what happens next?
So that's when I first got the taste of being able to provide for myself. Yeah, and obviously this is such a funny story. The kids who bought the plums then started to throw the plums at each other in school, and the teachers eventually discovered that I was the kid slinging the plums, and they put that to an end. Fast forward a couple of years later, year 9, dad had that huge heart attack. Mum and couldn't afford to pay the bills in the household. Dad stopped working, you know, the 2 jobs each and all that stuff. So tough time in the family. So I got a job at Foot Locker. And I was in year 9, 14, 9 months. I think I just cracked 15. And so I went in, man, and I was working all day Saturday, all day Sunday, Thursday night. So still racking up some big hours and while doing full-time school. And Foot Locker is great because I could get basketball shoes for
yeah, right, of course. Sponsorship, baby.
So I started working there, started paying attention in school, and I realized, look, if I pay attention to certain things and decide to apply my willpower and strive to actually become better at something, it started paying off. So I went from year 9 being pretty mediocre to year 10 duxing the becoming first in pretty much every subject.
Wow.
And then in grade 10, my sister would have been in 2nd year university and doing pharmacy. And my sister is the type of girl who is so dedicated and has this kind of OCD, studious mentality, much better than I ever had. And she just wouldn't leave her room. And my mum was worried about my sister. So I was like, okay, cool. I went up to her and I said, do you want me to help you with the assignments? She's like, you don't know anything. So I took a chemistry textbook and I studied chemistry in the summer holidays. For 3 months, I taught myself the first year pharmacy chemistry syllabus in grade 10. So I did my HSC for chemistry a year early. Which gave me a leg up. I got pretty good results in that. Finished high school, got 99 in my HSC, got a scholarship to go to law school. Didn't get into law straight away because the mark was 99.4. I got 99.0. So when I sat with the dean of law and I told him my story, and he said, I'll do your deal. If you go and you get straight high distinctions in your commerce subjects, I'll let you transfer over after a year. So after the first semester, I came not just HDs, I worked my butt off, came first in every subject. And I went up to him after first semester and said, can you cut me a deal early, man? Can I transfer over now? And he's gracious enough to allow me to do that, man. So that's a law story. Yeah, that's a law story. And then fast forward 5 years later, I got.
So you completed the degree. You completed law.
So I did commerce, double majored in finance and accounting, and I finished law with first class honors at Sydney University.
You're a fucking machine. It's like, I'm not really that academic. Oh, you know, I wasn't really studious.
I
I
think
just,
I think the thing is, man, I wasn't really ever that good at it, man. I just what happened was I had the beauty, the benefit, the grace of good fortune to be put into a situation where I had to force myself. There was no other option, man. There's no option to fail, dude. There's no option to fail. Like, I got to provide, and I got to do this shit to get out of the rut that my family's in, this situation. And I just realized, like, if I pay attention and have the willpower and the focus to want to become better, and I strive for that, then I'll be able to deliver my full potential. And I was lucky enough to be able to do so. So yeah, managed to finish that law degree.
That's awesome, and that's what I love about, I've interviewed quite a number of immigrants, and this is why I am so pro immigration, especially when it comes to Australia. Is there's a completely different work ethic I've discovered, not in everyone, but I've noticed this is a very common trait, and I've spoken to other successful mates, who would agree from the stories that they've had. When you come from a situation where you have no choice, if you don't make money, you don't survive, and then you come into a country like Australia, it's almost like you don't lose that mentality. And, because Australia's, and I almost refer to Australia's got very much a welfare psychology, meaning that, well, I could work, but if I don't, I'm still going to get paid. I'm still going to get the dole. I'm going to get some kind of a handout from the government. Whereas in most countries, Fiji and many parts of Asia, it's just, you don't have that luxury. And so, when kids come over, especially when they've, you're 5 years of age, you've seen how hard it is over there. Do you think that played a significant role in your hunger? And not just, obviously, what happened to your dad was a significant part, but it seems to me that there's something that runs deeper within the culture.
Yeah, interesting question. Look, if you've been to Fiji, you know about the Fijian culture. It's all about Fiji time, bula, whatever will happen, will happen, man. Whatever will happen, will happen. It's all about what if we go fishing today and we catch some fish, we're eating all the fish today and not worrying about tomorrow. So I don't necessarily think it's a cultural thing. I definitely think it's an idiosyncratic thing. It's a personal thing. It's unique. It's about a person, how they're wired, their mindset. And I believe that the biggest driver for that is a psychology of having, it's just your mindset, man. You either got a growth mindset, you got a fixed mindset. You're either a consumer or you're a provider or you're a creator, right? And so from my perspective, you can live in a community and you can consume what that community creates. Great. Well done. Awesome. Okay. Eventually that shit's going to run out. Whereas my mindset's always been, how can I either go create or how can I go hunt and find so I can give back more to the community than I've consumed? And if you can have that mindset, mate, that's that you're providing for the next generation. I've got 2 little daughters, so I definitely want to create a better world for them, man. So look, dude, to answer your question, man, like I get it. Like my wife is also Anglo. She's as white as paper, mate. You look tan next to her, Kerwin. English Irish heritage. Yeah.
They call me Casper.
But Katie is even more driven than I am. We've got 2 baby girls now, but I call her Coach Katie because she jokes around. She's like, I'm the chairman of the company. I've got a really good CEO. You worked about officer. She's got a stronger work ethic than I do because it's about the person. It's about how your mind is wired. And I don't believe there's you can either have a genetic predisposition for it, but it's nature versus nurture. And I definitely think there's always a turning point where a person has the ability to be exposed to something. Once you're made aware and once you can strive for something, man, that's a real game-changing point.
That's a fucking great answer. So you've done law, you finished law, you've come out. I can't see a guy as kind and as humble, as big-hearted as you becoming a lawyer. So what happened?
I might just rewind for a bit why I chose to. I actually wanted to do cardiothoracic surgery because my dad had a heart attack, and I promised my dad when he was in the hospital bed that, Dad, I promise I'm going to dedicate my life to helping other people who had a heart attack like yours, and I want to do surgeries for free and help people and all that stuff. Dad, you got to make it till you're 65 years old. I'm going to buy you a Mercedes when you turn 65 years old. And little things that a dumb kid says to their dad just to give him the motivation. I'm thinking Dad's going to get G'd up and want to bounce back because his son's going to buy him a Merc in 65 years. Dad doesn't give a fuck about that stuff, man. I did buy him the Merc though on his 65th birthday. That's a different story. But rewind to then when I finished my HSC and I got that mark, and my grandma, may her rest in peace, her soul. She passed away. It's very close to her. She took me to Fiji to give me a little treat because I got that mark, and I was in the villages where her siblings live, and they live in the rural hills in like the inlands of Fiji, man. Like, you think Fiji is all this beautiful sandy beach shit? You ain't seen Fiji, brother, until I take you to Tangi Tavua, where they live. And they live in a tin shed. That's their house. And I stayed there for 2 weeks, and I heard all their stories, and they said they were so proud, man. I got goosebumps telling this story, dude. And they said to me, Izu, you've been bestowed with a very special responsibility and a gift from our community, and God, Allah, has blessed you with this thing. They go, you will come and fight for our land rights. You know, our people, the slaves that were brought over to come and work here, were promised that we were going to be given land. They gave us land, and they've dogged us, and they're going to be taking away this land, and we're not going to have this land. And you will become a lawyer, and you will fight for our rights,
man. Oh my God. How old were you?
Like 17 and a half. I just finished, probably 18. Yeah, I just finished high school.
Wow. Okay. And so that's another pivotal moment, obviously, in your life.
Well, that's when I chose to do freaking law, man. Like, I might be a doctor now, or maybe if I got through, if I
pass. And so whilst you're at studying law, did any of this come to fruition? Has that come to fruition? What's happened?
So, not directly. So, look, I went through law school. Midway through, my grandma passed away, and I went through law school. I got the marks, graduated first class honors. These big law firms come knocking on the door. Got headhunted by a firm called Clayton Utz. Got in there, was treated very, very nicely by Clayton Utz. I was really looked after at Clayton Utz, man. Like, that's great firm, great people, so caring. And it was the first time that I really experienced meritocracy in my life, that it doesn't matter what I look like. I didn't go to a fancy private school. I don't have lawyer barrister parents. It was just what I was able to deliver. What value can I deliver? And how can I truly stand up as a man on my 2 feet and be able to be off substance and off value? That was the first time I truly realized that, Kerwin. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I still have a lot of respect for the firm. I know a lot of lawyers talk shit about being involved in these firms. I think it's very narrow-minded and selfish to have that approach. I think you should be very grateful for every experience you have in life, because other people don't have those fucking experiences, right? So I work my ass off, dude. I work my ass off. I did the whole 16-hour days. The GFC hit. I would have been a third or fourth year lawyer. All my mates around me, this is 2010, all my mates around me being made redundant. I got promoted to senior associate at 26. I was one of the youngest senior associates in Australian corporate law freaking history, whatever the firm liked to carry on about. And then I definitely abused my body with the amount of work I was doing and the lack of sleep and thinking I was Superman. And I got diagnosed with autoimmune disease. Put me on my ass. Yeah. So I was internally bleeding, so I'd go to the bathroom, and 12 times a day, and all that come out when I'd be on the toilet is blood. It feels like the entire basin of the entire toilet bowl. And it was a bit of a difficult time. I didn't know what it was. It's this, colon cancer. The evil C word. I know there's 2 evil C words, but this one. And
I hear you, brother.
It was a very challenging time, and I just been newly married, man, at the time, and got worked that hard. End up putting myself in hospital with the amount of internal bleeding that was going on, and that was that critical moment, dude, where I'm in hospital and I'm lying there thinking, what do I want to do for the rest of my life, and thinking about all these things that I've experienced through life, and purpose and meaning and value and giving back. And I thought to myself, like, if I can get out of here, I'm going to dedicate my life to what my original promise was to my dad, to help people prevent disease and bring about better, healthier outcomes for themselves, instead of getting sick and then trying to deal with it, Because I don't know if you know about Fiji, we've got massive diabetes, metabolic disease issue. There's people with heart disease. As soon as sugar's been introduced to any ethnic community, whether it's American Indians, the indigenous Australians, the Fijians, the Fijian Indians, whoever, we get diabetes straight away, dude. Like, our body's not designed to handle sucrose, sugar. So, yeah, man, I was able to put myself into remission without being on any hectic steroidal drugs and prednisone and stuff. I avoided all of that.
Was it Crohn's? Is that what it ended up being? Crohn's disease?
Yeah. So the autoimmune disease is technically defined as a fusion between, it's both Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. So the inflammation goes up
Right.
to the upper and the lower part of the gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and that's brought about other kind of autoimmune stuff too. The psoriasis.
Look, I know you're a bit of a philosophical guy, so I'll just throw this one out there. Do you think there was an emotional connection to that, to what you were doing at the time? Like, because obviously at this point you're still in law, you're studying law. Do you think that there was any connection to that?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't put it as deep as that. Possibly,
Okay.
I'm a strong believer that whatever God throws at us,
Mm.
He's thrown at us because we can handle it, and
Yep.
and that everything, whether it's pain or pleasure, just like whatever we've gone through, coronavirus just now, it's beautiful. Everyone's saying that it's God's punishment and all this stuff on mankind, and how we terrible to the environment and things. And I take the opposite view. Nature continued, brother. We were locked up inside our houses like birds in a cage, whereas nature continued. The birds are outside chirping and the dolphins are still jumping in Bronte Beach. It's just things continued. It's just us as humans. That's how insignificant we are in this world. And so how can we be so insignificant yet have such a detrimental effect on the environment? And it's just, yeah, that kind of stuff, man. But look, I don't necessarily think I haven't thought
There was
about
a
that.
connection.
Yeah, I
But
haven't
at this
thought about
point,
it.
you had a real you question though. So what when you started to you rehabilitated yourself, but was it through the rehabilitation process that you decided to question, or you went on the hunt for? How did it happen?
So no, so look, I didn't want to take one of the drugs, and I won't mention names of drugs and things like that. But one of the side effects is leukemia of this particular steroidal type of drug that I was recommended to take
Yeah,
to
wow.
treat Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. I thought, no, stuff that. I'm not going to do that. There's got to be better ways out there that I can heal my body. And so I looked into alternative ways, my nutrition, glutamine, looking at glutathione as one of the antioxidants that's amazing at reducing inflammation throughout your body. And funnily enough, whey protein. There's so much clinical research done at the moment on the effects of whey protein on people who have cystic fibrosis, which is another autoimmune disease that causes inflammation of the lungs. And actually says that by consuming whey, I think 60 grams of whey a day, whey protein a day, that it increases the glutathione levels in your mitochondria that helps to reduce inflammation of the lungs for people with cystic fibrosis. That's pretty epic shit.
Yeah,
That's the kind of stuff.
wow,
I know
that's
I
awesome.
fully geeked you out there, but like that's the
No, I love that shit. Come on.
that's the
Okay,
stuff
that's
that gets me
awesome.
excited and drives my passion, man. So
And is that how you segmented into supplements? Because I'm going to assume at this point you were looking for something.
because I told you about the getting 99 in my HSC and working hard and all that
Yeah.
stuff back in school. You got to sacrifice something, man. And so after basketball, my body took a bit of a change. All I did was eat and study, and I'd only be able to justify to myself to take a study break if I was eating. And so what that meant was like I'd be having dinner at 9:30 so I could watch Law and Order and get all this inspiration and come up and be having my dinner at 9:30 at night and excessive amounts of eating. So what I found was if I wanted to take a break, because I could only take a break if I was eating, I was then finding myself eating all the time. And so it probably
Mm.
was an eating disorder. It probably was. It's
Yeah,
undiagnosed
wow.
kind of eating disorder and stuff. But I had that. I put on so much weight, man. I got to my normal body weight's 100 kilos. I got up to 118, close to 120 kilos. And so when I finished up, I then started to join the gym as the first Fitness First that opened up in Auburn in Sydney. And mum took me down, got me a membership, and she got membership too. And we both tried this health kick. And I was very much into, what can I do that makes me better than everyone? What can I do that makes me better than me, like ordinarily? Like, how can I bring the best out of myself? And I discovered supplements, man. I discovered whey protein. I was taking whey protein from when I was 18, 19 years old. I was into thermogenics. I was taking Bacopa Monieri Brahmi pills from when I was in year 10 because I knew the correlation between
Learning.
cognitive enhancement and Bacopa
Yeah.
Monieri. I was biohacking that shit and into nootropics before people are talking about nootropics. It's just stuff I'm into because I personally want to be so much better than I am now because I told you, man, like I'm not necessarily gifted at anything. So I got to work fucking 10 times harder than everyone else. I got to look at where are the next tricks and tips and little hacks and ways of improving myself, because I haven't been the best. I haven't just naturally come first at something. It's a shit ton of work to get there.
Dude, that's awesome. So nootropics. I'm curious. Actually, no. I'm going to save nootropics for the end. So at this point, is this when you started to? You obviously had an obsession with supplementation. You've been taking supplements for a very long time. But at what point did you go, okay, I think there's not only a commercial opportunity here, but I think I'm actually going to pursue it?
Yeah, no, good question. So after I got out of hospital, my wife and I were walking through Randwick. That's where we were living back then. And the optometrist that she used to go to just had closed his shop. And his shop was right opposite Fitness First in Randwick. And I thought to myself, hey, like while we've been living here and I've been training, getting to the gym, I have to drive to like Granville or Marylands or other places I was used to buying supplements from various other retailers that existed. So I thought, you know what, we should set up a supplement store here to cater for the area. There's 5,000 Fitness First members and no supplement store. So just was a no-brainer, made sense, and had no business experience, like technically from a retail sense. Set up the store. We were retailing all of the top American products and a few of the Australian products. Australian technology and advancements weren't really there yet in sports nutrition. So we ran that store for 3 months, and that's where my real frustration came about, that, there's all these supplements, particularly in the weight loss and fat loss area, that people were coming in and asking about or wanting and demanding. And we didn't really have anything that ticked all the boxes. And so I'd constantly be frustrated that, okay, well, I'll give you these products here. It's either pill or powder form, but hey, it's got 1,3-dimethylmelamine in there, or it's got other meth-based stimulants in there, excessive amounts of caffeine, nothing that actually really mobilized the fat cells, nothing that actually worked in promoting fullness, satiety, being full, nothing that actually helped you curb your appetite, nothing that helped to block carbs being converted to fat. And man, that was my real catalyst, dude. So like from there, I was just like whinging and whining all the time, like I do. My wife's just like, dude, just stop whinging, man. If you want to go, and if you think you can make something better, go make it. So while she went over to Ireland to visit her sick grandparents with her dad, I jumped on Google, typed in best place to formulate sports supplements, watched a documentary on Utah and the supplement industry, Google supplement manufacturer in Utah, and found 10, emailed, 1 responded back, jumped on a Skype call, and within 2 days, I was flying to America in 2012. I'd never been to the States before. So
no shit.
That's how that stuff all started, man. So I got myself, I think I had $3,000 or $4,000 left in my bank account. So I paid that over, got myself access to a contract lab for 2 weeks. Started formulating what my vision was for the best fat burner in the world. It's Oxyshred. And if you've consumed the product, you know how good it is in terms of not just fat burning, but mental focus, putting you in a good mood, helping to curb appetite. I haven't eaten from when I've woken up. I'm just sipping on my Oxyshred. From that real vision and dedication, your podcast is called Unstoppable. When you're so obsessed and dedicated about trying to bring something about because you truly believe in it, you believe you're unstoppable. I've been stopped, Kerwin, so I'm not going to ever say I'm unstoppable. God will stop me in my fucking tracks, brother. He's put me in hospital before. Like, I'm not going to have the veracity and audacity to come out and make that statement. I get the coolness about it. I get the gist, dude. But for me, I'm very stoppable. Like, I'll be stopped. I've been stopped before, but I'm obsessed. I'm relentless. I'm dedicated. I'll bring that about. And I got in the lab, man. I started formulating. We created Oxyshred. I'm a food guy, so it had to taste amazing. And we dropped our first 2 Oxyshred flavors. It was pink grapefruit and wild melon, the 2 OGs. And it was at a perfect time because 1,3-dimethylmelamine just got banned. All of the American sports supplements in weight loss that had that ingredient got banned. And we were the first product to ever hit the market to include the clinical dosage of acetyl-L-carnitine to actually transport fat and drive it into the core of your cells, your mitochondria, to convert it to natural energy. So we have no meth ingredients in our fat burner like other ones do. And yeah, the product just became viral, man. People felt great on it. You wake up, you're in a good mood as soon as you take it, suppresses your appetite, and people are dropping fat on it. And the product speaks for itself, man. So that's how Oxyshred came about, and the whole kind of journey to supplements and creating the brand.
So Oxyshred was supplement number one. So at first you only had one product in the range?
Correct. So we made Oxyshred, and we had our first original pre-workout. It's really funny because it was like a 14.5 gram scoop, a clinical dosage of a pre-workout called Buzz. And funnily enough, like now, 7 years later, the market actually truly realizes the importance of clinical dosages and values that, but it was just way too strong for people back then. So that didn't really catch on. Oxyshred went viral from day one, man. We had no money as a brand, right? This is all bootstrap, zero investment, zero.
And this is where you blew up, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you do, from memory, it was like, I've got it on the notes here somewhere. In your first 3 months, what was I've got it here somewhere.
So we clicked up.
That's right. From day one, you generated $1 million in sales in the first 4 months.
Yeah.
And then it was 3 million in the first year.
Yeah. So it was a pretty crazy
And that's
journey.
off Oxyshred alone, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much Oxyshred alone. Man.
That's fucking impressive, because a lot of people go, oh,
two flavors,
one product, that's sort of fucking business. That's a promotion. But then when you look at those numbers, that's fucking epic.
Red Bull's got one product. We had one product for years, dude. So when we looked at, I wanted to create the best product, that we could at that time, and we only had 2 flavors. We had 2 variants. It was an interesting time. It was a time when we had no money, no budget for marketing, Kerwin, like nothing. And back then in 2013, you weren't a brand if you weren't in a glossy magazine. You're into your fitness. I can obviously see there's huge guns sticking out of that jumper. Little peck dance, don't. So there we go. And so from our perspective, we had to be creative, and we were early on the whole influencer space. We didn't know what an influencer was. There was no the term wasn't even coined. This is like 2012, and we had this girl who's a personal trainer from Bondi who had 50,000 fans on Facebook pre-reach restriction algorithms. And what that means is if she does a post about a particular product or anything, 50,000 people all see it because it comes chronologically in your feed back in the Facebook days. And so of a pre-reach restriction algorithm. And so we didn't have product then. It was just an idea. I'd come back. We had a tub and a label, and I had her holding up the tub and label, and pretty much post, and she tried the product. She loved it, little samples, but she said, who knows where I can get Oxyshred in Australia? I hear it's like amazing in America. And that was our sales team. That was our marketing team. Her fans became our sales team because we strategically ensured we didn't have an e-commerce site. E-commerce was around in 2012. We didn't set up an e-commerce website. I set up a landing page that I SEO optimize to ensure. It's called, our distribution company in Australia and New Zealand is called Tiger Nutrition. So we own the whole vertical from production to distribution globally.
Beautiful.
Allows us to control different things and ensure the product doesn't get in the wrong hands. But we set up the distribution company in Australia and New Zealand called Tiger Nutrition. And our SEO optimized it so that if you went into Google, if you knew about Oxyshred, you went to Google and you typed in Oxyshred Distributor Australia, Tiger Nutrition would pop up, and it had the landing page to contact us and phone us. So I remember when we did that campaign with this personal trainer from Bondi, she did this post. Every guy wanted to date her and every girl wanted to be her. So everyone wanted to impress her, right? And she's like, please comment below, Facebook message me if you know where I can find us. Everyone's calling supplement stores. Everyone's messaging and, going to websites looking for the brand. And, Aussie retailers are smart. Like, if they feel that there's demand, they're missing out on something, they want to get it. So they obviously never heard of Oxyshred before. They Googled Oxyshred Distributor Australia, Tiger Nutrition pops up.
I fucking love it. It's very, very Justin Herald. Yeah.
And from that day, dude, from that moment, we've never ever knocked on a door to sell our product. Right? In February, Vitamin Shop with 780 stores in North America approached us saying, hey, 7 years later, we've heard of your product and everyone wants it. Can we talk? And that gives you the commercial and comparative advantage to get out to get into the negotiations and not be screwed over commercially.
Yeah.
Same thing with GNC, 3,500 stores. We're lucky enough not to actually enter that deal and get screwed over. They just filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So they'll restructure.
Has that actually been a bit of a strategy for you guys? Like build the demand to such a level where they come to you, like the bigger players, versus you going to them? Or have you had some situations where you've actually been proactive and headhunted distribution?
Kerwin, no one likes a door-to-door salesman, okay? Because no
Mhm.
one likes their privacy to be invaded. No one likes to be hawked. You see some signs. I didn't know what this word was until I Googled. They said no hawking. I was like, what the fuck's a hawk? So no one likes that, do they? Like, no one likes that. No one likes to then, and even if you do impulsively buy, what do you get immediately? Buyer's remorse. Oh shit, I just got fucked over. That guy came and sold me, man. But when are you actually fully satisfied and deeply connected to buying or investing in a product? When you want it, because you go searching for it, right? And I can't remember what it was. I think it was seek.com. You said seek and you shall find. Seek, yeah, it was Seek, right? The employment website.
Mhm.
Yeah, seek and you
Mhm.
shall find. Well, cool, man. Like if I'm hunting for something, if I'm hunting for a job, if I'm hunting for a house that I want to buy, if I'm in the car showroom for a car I want to buy, I end up getting it. Great. I feel amazing. I'm going to tell the whole world about it. Yeah. And that's the approach that we took with our product and getting out there. Because don't forget, I used to run a store too, a retail store. And I used to
Mm.
hate it when a rep would walk in my store going, hey, do I have a deal for you today? Buy now and I'll give you this 25% off with free shaker bottles and blah, blah, blah. No one wants that shit. What's the number one
Yeah.
retailer problem right now globally? This is a universal problem that every retailer has. And what is it? Knowing what to sell. Because if you choose the right products to have on your shelf, the customers will come in, right? Sell what the people want. And so all we did was create the best product in the world, got it out there, created awareness, and controlled the narrative, right? We controlled the narrative
Mm.
that we had with the people who ultimately have the power. And George Orwell wrote
Mm.
about this in the book 1984, man. The proles, we're the
Yeah.
proles, we're the people. Give the people the power and everyone else will follow, man.
Yeah. Wow. And so how many products do you have in the range now? We're talking 8 years later.
Dude, there's close to 70 products. There's another 58 new products that I've finalized that are rolling out, part of our NPD calendar in the next 20 months. It's all mapped out.
Wow.
It's first time
That's
ever
massive.
it's first time ever that we've got a clear trajectory and a pathway that we're going to follow, which is super exciting.
And so how has Corona affected you guys? It's affected a whole range of businesses in a whole range of ways, some more than others. For others, it's created more business. I'm going to assume Oxyshred might be doing pretty good right now.
So look, our company is really, really well diversified. So EHP Holdings is, and brands EHPlabs, you've got different geographic markets we're in, as well as different sales channels. So we own and control the distribution companies within Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the US, Dubai, and in UK. They're all wholly owned subsidiaries within our group. Anyone supplying retail has been hit, supplying, like retailers, bricks and mortar.
Yeah, of course.
We were lucky enough to be hit very hard in the early days. But however much we were hit by, that was then picked up by obviously the massive spike across e-commerce, especially across the United States. We quickly pivoted and got an Australian website up within a week. The team hustled and got that up.
Wow.
So yeah, we're agile, we're responsive, and we've been able to really get through these difficult times. I think the most important thing that Corona's really brought front of mind is our health. It's the key priority of our physical health and our mental health. And I think these are two key things that sometimes get shelved. And when we can bring about understanding that our physiology, movement, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, the word motion is within the word emotion, so when you can move your body and control the movements of your body, it impacts essentially on how you feel, controls your hormones, controls various things that contribute to your mental state of mind. And we saw the pros and cons of this, man. So Oxyshred obviously increased in demand for e-com. our Oxy whey protein grew. It's been definitely a pivot and a change. Yeah, we've been pretty lucky to get through it. I've got a lot of friends that have been negatively affected by Corona, but we're doing okay. We're doing okay.
You're punching on. With that, you've mentioned the pivot with what you've gone through so far. Are there any bigger pivots that are coming? Because obviously there's a huge amount of uncertainty, second wave, third wave, where we go from here. Who knows what could actually happen? But are you guys starting to make some more strategic moves long term in terms of your business model from a pivoting perspective?
I think it's important and pivot became a massive buzzword. I think just always
No.
we've been very responsive, adaptable, and flexible. The whole Darwin's theory is neither the strongest nor the smartest that survives in a time of change. It's the one that's the fastest to adapt to that change. And the team's scaled up now. Is approximately 106 people in the company, and for us to know that we're as agile as we were when there was 3 to now being 106 is super awesome. Like within the week, we can get a new site up in a new market that's been hit because of retail slumping. We're definitely opening up. The diversification of our product range, opening up into functional foods and FMCG. You might be seeing an Oxyshred energy drink in a can, sparkling version hitting all your convenience stores throughout the world. That'd be pretty cool. And that's in the works, man. I won't spoil that too much for you.
That's very exciting. That's like going mainstream retail distribution.
Yeah, and I think that the brand's got a certain level of respect in the performance space. I think we command a little bit of that extra edge, and that it's for the discerning. It's for the people that know what it is, and we hope that brings about some level of clout when we do release the products into those different categories and channels.
So outside of business, I get the sense you're a big family guy, but you also mentioned earlier that you're quite a philosophical guy, and I get the sense that's rooted in your upbringing. You've been brought up in an environment where there's a lot of faith, by the sounds of it, religion as well. What is it philosophically that you find interesting now from because you're an obsessive guy, right? And it seems to me like you ask big questions, and you've kind of got to this point in life where you've created this big business and there's still more to come. But have you got to the point where you've started asking some bigger questions around life and why we're here, and where is that taking you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. This has gone deep now. For me, I'm lucky enough to feel personally that I've worked it out. And it's given me a lot of peace, because I did have some big anxiety a couple of years ago when you get to a certain stage financially. You speak to a whole bunch of people, and it gets to that point. You don't have to look at a menu when you're ordering food, because you don't care what something costs. I've driven every car and supercar, and been on different countries and hotels and all the experience stuff and materialistic stuff. And people say it's not about the materialistic stuff, but it's about your experiences. And my response to that is, maybe till you get to a point where you can experience enough to have true insight into what your purpose is, and the Simon Sinek big what's your why, or what's the motive behind the motivation, what wakes me up every day, why I work 16 hours a day still today. We're going to hit the 100 mil revenue mark by this financial year. We're meant to be on target for that. The GNC thing will set us back a little bit, but to get to the 9-figure mark becomes a monopoly for us. Like, it's almost meaningless. It doesn't really matter. Like, the actual big driving force behind it all is what's the real impact. And we're put on this earth as a gift, not to us, but to the people that will come after us. And we need to fulfill our true purpose and give justice to our ancestors, the predecessors who were here before us, for what they paid for us, man. And for us to actually pay homage to that, right? You can't think of all the sacrifices that the people made that were here before us to give us what we have. And what are we then going to do to ensure that we create a better world? You've got a son, right? You've got a son, yeah? I've got 2 daughters, right? And so for us as parents, as fathers, we have a huge responsibility on our shoulders, and as mothers too, for our children. The mothers have a huge responsibility. What are we going to do to instill to our children that it's more than just, because our children are obviously going to be a lot more privileged than we were. and that's a bit dangerous. But how can we show them that that's not what we work for? That's just what we've been blessed with, and what tools and resources we have to essentially make this world a better place, so that they grew up in a better world than we grew up in. That's what really drives me, man. That's my purpose. That's why I know I'm here. That's the whole meaning of being a parent.
That's your legacy. So what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh man, huge question, dude. Like if I can just, if one person can just sit there and say at my funeral that this man here lying in the earth 6 foot deep before me helped to make me better, brother, I'm going to be lying in that grave a happy man. Just one person. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter. Like I don't want to move a million people. If I do, great. If it's one person, amazing, because that one person lives on while I'm down there. That one person now, that legacy, the baton's been passed on to that person. So yeah, small goals, man. Micro goals lead to macro goals.
Man, I get the sense that there's got to be a book at some point, because there's such a story here. But you're a very humble guy. Is there going to be a book at any point that's going to share your story?
Well, I haven't thought about that, Kerwin, man. To be honest with you, that's the first time I've been asked that question. I work, Kerwin, man. Like I don't do these interviews very often, dude. When Annabelle and your team reached out to one of my athlete managers, who then reached out to me, who then said, you have to check this Kerwin guy out, and I really like him. I follow his stuff. I started listening to your stuff while I walk my dog at 5:30 in the morning. And I really like what you're about, because you truly
Thank you,
care.
brother.
Through what you do, you want to make other people better. And because of I understood your values, and that aligned with me. So I'm sitting here talking to you, brother. But I'm not one to, it's not the Izhar Basha show. Like I don't want to be famous. I don't want to do anything. If it does one day come out, it comes out. But yeah, my story is going to be through my children and through my team, amazing team here. And I'm speechless. Like probably first time you stumped me with that question, but not front of mind, brother. I'm going to continue working on what I do, and hopefully through my work, the stories are told by other people instead of through my own writing. I think it's a little bit contrived to write my own book, brother. It's
Mate, who knows? Maybe your daughters will write it for you. You just don't know. Hey, you just don't know. But mate, honestly, I feel very privileged, because I know you don't normally do interviews, and I feel very blessed that your athlete manager passed you through. We have a lot of athletes that follow us, a lot of competitors that follow us, and so with that in mind, like, where can people find out more about the brand, the products, Oxyshred, all the other Oxyway? Where can they find out more?
Yeah, thanks, man. So just EHPlabs.com and EHPlabs on Instagram. I'm very personal on my Instagram, just for people that truly want to connect and get some type of insight and motivation, inspiration. Pretty open with my IG stories, and it's, if you want more of the daily motivation and philosophy behind what drives us, is just IZHARBASHA, Izhar Basha on Instagram. Yeah, man, that's where you can find me and find it.
We'll put all those details below. From my heart to your heart, brother, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. And hopefully at some point we can talk you into coming and speaking to our K2s and sharing your story on a stage at some point.
Man, if it's helping people, and I love what you do, Kerwin, man, I actually strongly believe, I feel, you've had a gift and you do some awesome shit, man. So definitely happy to help you and the people that you impact their lives, man. Happy to help in whatever way I can.
You're an absolutely incredible human being. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank unstoppable Izhar Basha. Thank you, brother. Mate, that was epic. Thank you, brother.
This episode was brought to you by Nail It and Scale It, the world's leading fast growth program for business. There you have it, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Unstoppable with me, your host, Kerwin Ray. And please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you get to see all of these interviews in the flesh. Share this podcast with your friends and drop me a review on iTunes. I would love to hear what you guys think, and also let you know your comments help make sure that we keep producing killer content just like this. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of my movements, upcoming podcasts, events, and much more, please jump onto the website kerwinray.com, and also check us out on all social media on the handle @KerwinRay. Thanks for joining us.